You know what's grabbing headlines? A potential um, game changer in contraception, a hormone-free male pill.
Really? Wow.
Imagine that. It actually got me thinking about other shifts, like when I finally deleted all social media apps from my phone.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I felt like this instant clarity, like a real shedding of something unnecessary.
It's interesting how those two things, the male pill and, stepping back from social media, they kind of both touch on this theme of agency,
The agency, right.
taking control, making conscious choices about what we engage with and what we take responsibility for.
Exactly. And that's precisely what we're diving into today. This news about the male contraceptive pill, YCT-529, it sparked a deeper look into how we understand masculinity now,
Okay.
especially through the lens of Wade Channell's work. Wade's an expert, decades of experience in gender equality. And we've got some really thought-provoking stuff here. Reactions from a candid radio show about this pill, plus Wade's own insights on being a man in 2025.
All right. So for listeners, our goal here is to sort of unpack what contemporary masculinity looks like.
Yeah.
We want to get into the limitations of those, old traditional roles and explore how men can maybe embrace a more rewarding, responsible way of being today.
Yeah, think of this as your shortcut to understanding these big shifts, hopefully with some surprising insights along the way.
Mm-hmm.
No overwhelm, just clarity.
Sounds good.
Okay, so let's get into this potential revolution. The male contraceptive pill, YCT-529.
Right.
This is the first hormone-free pill for men to actually enter human trials. And the initial lab results, around 99% effectiveness.
99%.
Yeah, that's enough.
Yeah, that's significant.
And what makes it really interesting, potentially a huge step, is that it aims to avoid those hormonal side effects that, let's be honest, many women deal with.
That's a big deal. So it's hormone-free.
Totally. Right now, it's being tested in New Zealand. They're looking at how well it suppresses sperm in men aged 28 to 70 in real-world conditions.
And what really stands out, I think, is the claim that fertility comes back relatively quickly.
Right.
Like within weeks after stopping.
Yes. That addresses a major concern, right?
Mm-hmm.
About permanent options or long-lasting effects.
Absolutely. Less commitment fear, maybe.
Maybe. But on that radio show, we mentioned the initial reactions really highlighted some ingrained attitudes.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
Well, one host, Marty, was cracking jokes, the classic pull-out Pete and condom Chris kind of banter.
Right, which just shows how embedded certain methods and expectations are. Resistance to the new, just because we're used to the old.
Totally. But then the other host, Jon, he offered a really different take, talking about male agency, the right for men to also protect themselves from unwanted pregnancies.
Male agency.
Yeah, and he even shared this powerful personal story about how an unplanned pregnancy actually played a role in his parents' divorce.
Wow. That really brings it home, doesn't it? It shows the potential impact goes way beyond just, preventing pregnancy. It touches responsibility, relationships.
And interestingly, even though they started differently, both Marty and Jon agreed they'd prefer this pill as an option over, say, abortion.
That's common ground then.
Yeah. And Keith, the main host, he was generally positive, saw it as more choice, a move towards shared responsibility. Jon also briefly mentioned, the historical impact of the female pill.
Which is huge if you think about it. When the female pill arrived, it was a massive societal shift. Changed women's roles, opportunities, everything.
True.
So a reliable male contraceptive, it could potentially spark a similar kind of evolution in how we think about relationships, family planning, shared duties.
Okay, so let's bring Wade Channell into this picture.
Right, the gender equality expert.
Exactly. Over 30 years in international development, US 80, focusing on economic growth and, crucially, gender equality. But his current work, it's really zoomed in on redefining healthy masculinity.
Through documentaries and his book. Right?
Yeah, documentaries like Man Confessions About the Swedish Man and his book, To Be a Man, Rethinking Our Roles, Rules, and Relationships for a More Rewarding Life.
And his core message seems to be that these rigid, traditional gender expectations, they limit everyone.
That's it. He argues these outdated rules box men in just as much as they restrict women. It's not a zero-sum game.
Which leads to a really critical point Wade makes. This shift from only focusing on empowering women to also actively addressing, healthy masculinity.
Mm-hmm.
And he links this directly to that sobering statistic, 1 in 3 women experiencing violence from men. His insight is that unhealthy masculinity is a kind of a common denominator in gender inequality.
It's a stark connection to make. And Wade argues there are these ingrained cultural lies and myths holding men back, like the pressure to always dominate, always suppress emotions.
And he points out that inherent contradiction, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Between needing to dominate and being empathetic.
Yeah, how can you?
You can't really connect with someone and understand them if your main goal is to power over them. It just doesn't work.
And the whole conversation around emotions was powerful. Wade emphasizes, men are born fully capable of feeling, crying, expressing, and suppressing that is actually harmful.
Which ties right back to that radio show discussion about whether men should cry.
Exactly.
It really flags those societal pressures, conditioning men to be stoic, like Jon on the show saying he felt like a woman trapped in a man's body. That shows the internal conflict, right? When expectations clash with your real feelings.
Though Marty offered a more, maybe nuanced view, suggesting there are times for emotion, times for reserve, especially in leadership. But Jon pushed back, saying you need to lead with both vulnerability and strength.
And that balanced strength with vulnerability that feels key to a healthier masculinity. Not shutting down emotions, but understanding and expressing them authentically, constructively.
Well, Wade also got quite personal about his own struggles with these roles.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he talked about how hard it was for him to ask for help, that deep-seated need to be the leader, the self-reliant one.
That really hits on that expectation, doesn't it? Men should always have the answers, never show weakness. Asking for help feels like admitting failure for so many.
And he talked about the negative results of not asking, like procrastinating, more stress. He actually made a deliberate plan, like ask for help once a week.
Consciously deciding to do it.
Yeah, and he found it made a really positive difference.
It shows that breaking free often takes that kind of conscious effort, right? Recognizing you can't shoulder everything alone.
He also shared this incredibly vivid story about having a heart attack after he retired.
Oh, wow.
And initially denying it because he had a social thing he didn't want to miss. It just perfectly illustrates how that strong man image can literally stop men from seeking help, even life-saving help.
It's a chilling reminder that prioritizing an image over your actual well-being can have deadly consequences. Like Wade said, men often die earlier not because of biology, but because they avoid doctors.
Now, Wade comes from an evangelical Christian background.
Right, where traditional gender roles can be quite prominent.
Exactly. And he directly tackles that argument, the idea that these roles are somehow biologically fixed or, divinely ordained.
And what's compelling is his argument, coming from that background, based on his reading of religious texts, is that these roles are largely social constructs. They're not actually mandated from on high. It challenges that one right way idea.
He talked about his own shift, moving from an isolated, I'm the man kind of thinking, to more of a partnership approach, you, me, us.
Relational.
He even suggested that kind of spiritual isolation can be self-destructive.
That focus on connection, partnership, it seems central to his healthier vision, moving away from the lone wolf archetype towards, collaboration and mutual support.
And he highlighted virtues often missed in traditional masculinity sermons, things like compassion, kindness, gentleness, patience, love.
Qualities often stereotyped as feminine, right? But he argues they're fundamental human virtues, essential for any well-rounded person, including men.
He even dropped this amazing little factoid, the possibility that the word macho might have originally meant stupid in ancient Spanish.
No way. Stupid. That's quite a footnote. A humorous reminder about the language we use and its maybe not so admirable roots.
The nuances of macho came up on the radio show, too. Marty felt maybe still need a little bit of that traditional macho, not stupidity, but maybe confidence.
And Wade's take on that, I believe, is that real confidence needs to be rooted in reality, in genuine self-worth, not just swagger.
Right. And Jon's perspective was great, being macho enough to cry.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, that it embodies a deeper strength beyond just physical stuff. He even brought up Randy, Macho Man Savage, saying he believed showing emotion was healthy for anyone.
That's a powerful reframing, isn't it? Shifting macho from external dominance to an internal strength that allows for vulnerability.
Jon also mentioned how confidence is built over time and the danger maybe of men who stop growing, stop learning about themselves. And Wade noted how we're seeing more portrayals of women in Hollywood now as strong, assertive characters.
Which reflects that broader societal shift, Seeing different kinds of strength in everyone helps dismantle those old stereotypes.
Maybe we should quickly clarify sex versus gender here.
Good idea. So, sex is basically the biological equipment you're born with.
Right. And gender. That's the social meaning, the roles, the expectations society attaches to that equipment.
It's the cultural overlay, essentially.
And Roe v. Wade really emphasized that with technology changing things, those traditional gender roles are becoming less and less relevant, even in fields that were once super male-dominated, like operating heavy machinery.
Technology often levels the playing field, doesn't it? Physical strength matters less, skills and knowledge matter more, regardless of gender.
Roe v. Wade shared a really big takeaway from writing his book.
Which was?
Just how vast the options are beyond those restrictive gender norms. How many ways there are to be.
And he connects sticking to those restrictions to some really serious negative outcomes, right? Self-harm, substance abuse, isolation, loneliness.
Yeah, the human cost of feeling trapped by outdated expectations.
So he frames it as an opportunity there.
Exactly. A chance to be who you genuinely want to be, not who society's old rules say you should be. And Jon had that great line, break the rules, not the laws.
Crucial distinction. Challenge the harmful social norms? Absolutely. But stay within legal and ethical bounds.
Wade also called out one specific gender stereotype he really wishes would just disappear.
Which one?
The idea of the man as the sole provider.
Ah, okay. Why that one specifically?
Well, he argues it can breed entitlement in one partner, and it just doesn't match the reality of most modern relationships where responsibilities, financial and domestic, really should be shared and negotiated.
Right. Like he says, housework is just work. It doesn't have a gender.
We even heard that story from Keith on the radio show about his own dad shifting into more of a homemaker role later and the adjustments involved. And Jon shared how in his relationship they divide tasks based on preference and capacity, which leads to like mutual gratitude.
Those real-life examples show the practical upside of ditching rigid roles. That shift Wade mentioned from I to we seems so vital for healthy partnerships.
Finally, Wade really circled back to the importance of emotional health in this whole process of redefining masculinity.
How do you frame that?
As essential for like whole brain thinking, for navigating life's challenges effectively. It's about understanding your emotions without letting them run the show.
So recognizing the difference between, say, feeling angry and flying into a rage.
Yeah.
Or sadness versus constant debilitating crying.
Exactly. And the need to actually process emotions healthily, especially trauma. He even mentioned using the 5 whys technique to dig down to the root causes of feelings.
That's a practical tool.
Yeah. Ultimately, his conclusion is that discovering and embracing your full range of emotions isn't weak. It's liberating. It leads to greater self-awareness and, well, happiness.
A path to well-being, essentially.
Totally. Now, on a completely different tack, just quickly, we also stumbled on this really interesting finding about technology use in older adults.
Oh, yeah. What's that?
Turns out, regular use of smartphones, tablets, computers, it's linked to a significantly lower risk of cognitive impairment, like up to 58% lower.
Wow, 58%. That really flies in the face of the whole digital dementia fear, doesn't it?
Right. It suggests engaging with tech can actually be, a powerful tool for keeping your brain healthy as you age.
So viewing technology not just as consumption, but as a tool for creation, stimulation, keeping the mind active.
Exactly. Okay, so bringing this all home, we've journeyed through this evolving understanding of masculinity, right?
Yeah. Looked at the limits of old roles, the importance of emotional health, sheer responsibility.
And even new choices emerging, like the male contraceptive pill.
The core message, it feels like, is that call from Roe v. Wade, break free from restrictive rules. Not laws, but rules.
So we can all live more authentic, more fulfilling lives.
Definitely. And we really encourage listeners to, take a moment. Think about your own experiences with gender roles. How might some of these ideas resonate in your life, your relationships?
And if you want to explore Wade Channell's work more, you can find him on LinkedIn. Just search Wade Channell, that's WADECHANEL.
He also shared his email, which was wadechannel2n2l@gmail.com.
Right. So finally, we'll leave you with this to chew on.
What's one outdated rule about masculinity, just one that you could consciously choose to challenge or redefine in your own life, starting today?